What's going on, everybody? Hello again and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise, clap it up, get excited. Wherever you are, we are back with another action-packed episode for you today. We got so much to cover. NBA free agency. We now know more where Paul George is going. How is he going to fit in Philadelphia, as well as other moves in the free agency market in this new budding NBA offseason, as well as Ben Rodriguez knocking out Estrada, Teofimo Lopez in his fight against Claggaet. We got so much to discuss on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening, and please go ahead, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know so we can keep on building up this empire together of a community. We are rapidly growing. It's all thanks to you and your support. We're also available on every podcasting platform imaginable: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars there. Listen to us and all the other episodes that we got covering the world of sports as time has gone on. Trust and believe, you're going to want to go back and see what I've been saying, because a lot of stuff has been coming true. If I'm being completely, not to toot my own horn, but hey, I know my stuff and you know your stuff. That's why you're listening to this show. So we thank you so much for all of your support and all the love. But again, without further ado, let's jump right into the world of sports. And we normally talk about boxing first and foremost. We got to talk about the NBA as the first segment of this show, because we have a brand new potential super team in the East, or at least a potential threatening team in the East, as we now have officially Paul George is a Philadelphia 76er, with all the speculation where he was going to go with the failure of the Los Angeles Clippers. We now know that that experiment is done, and a new dynamic duo has been brought about in the East, with Philadelphia having Joel Embiid and Paul George on the roster. Paul George signing a max contract, 4-year, $212 million, looking to start, at least in the final, realm of his prime, going after another opportunity at a title with one of the 5 best players in the world, with Joel Embiid. First and foremost, how is this tandem going to work together? Well, I think it's going to work out flawlessly. We've seen Paul George in the past beat somebody who is, at one point in time, a MVP caliber player. Again, averaged 29 points when he was on OKC Thunder, was third in MVP voting, in the NBA, has been a player who has been one of the marquee stars in the league. Yes, we know the playoff production has been, hit or miss. Again, pandemic playoff P has been somebody that's been very much made fun of, understandably so, hitting the side of the backboards and whatnot. But even still, as a player, as a piece to a potential championship winning organization, we know what he brings to the table. We know he is a needle mover. Now going with, pairing with Philadelphia, pairing with Joel Embiid, this could be great. This could be really good. Along with them signing and keeping Tyrese Maxey for a long-term deal. Again, letting go of Tobias Harris, so losing a piece to gain a better piece. This is, in my opinion, this is a good move. It's a good move by Philly. Good move by Paul George. This ends the era of what should have been, what was supposed to be, the new dawning of a day in LA basketball. With the Clippers, supposedly this was their opportunity. With Kawhi, with PG as the main duo, then adding on James Harden, then adding on other great role pieces for this team. They should have been better, but they weren't. But again, we'll touch on that a little bit later. We'll touch on the failure of the Clippers and why it did not succeed. But strictly going on the here and now, when we look at Paul George and Joel Embiid and the entirety of this Philadelphia 76ers squad, yes, they are now built to potentially have a real run at a title. With the hopeful consistency of PG pairing with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey as a new 3-headed monster out in the East. At least that's what it should be touted as to be. This looks like it's great. You got, again, a perimeter defender, one of the best defenders in the league in Paul George, as well as a easily 25 to potentially 30 per game score on a night-to-night basis. Pairing with Joel Embiid, who, as we know, is the second best big man in the NBA. Arguably would have won MVP if he was not injured. Already won an MVP in the past. Has routinely been touted as and played as the most dominating force in the NBA today, which originally I thought that was going to be Giannis, or that was Giannis's title. Now it's Joel Embiid's title as the most dominant big man in the league, to the most physically demanding and physically demeaning player in the league right now. 7'1", can spread the floor, can get to the hoop, can put the ball on the floor as well as down low, is one of the most unstoppable forces in the paint, and can be a great defender as well on the other end of the floor. We're looking at a team that now has the pieces. Who can beat them? Who can stop them? Yes, we know Celtics, of course, are the favorites going into this season. Again, just signed Derek White to another lengthy deal to show up and keep one of the best assets on that roster. They're still built to be successful and can run it back next season. But with them still being on top, outside of the Celtics, Sixers look like, hey, they might be a really demanding squad that earns the respect of everybody. What can beat them? Who can beat them? And who can beat them is themselves. 76ers can beat themselves as their biggest threat to derail everything that looks like a very much successful road to a potential championship that they put themselves on with this trade with Paul George. And it's because of health. Specifically because of health. The health of the 76ers are the biggest thing that can beat them. We've seen Joel Embiid have injuries, especially in his knees. We don't need to go into what we've seen with Paul George and his lengthy injury regime, or rather his injury history in the NBA. Of course, that diabolical leg injury that he had when he was in Indiana. Then recovering from that, but still having knee injuries throughout his entire career. Yeah, one of the reasons why that him and Kawhi did not work was because of injuries. This is what can beat this roster. If you have Joel Embiid and PG healthy for 70-plus games, we can see the Sixers squad potentially get a third spot in the Eastern Conference. We can see the squad be one of the most dominating forces offensively and potentially one of the better defensive teams in the entirety of the league. We absolutely can. It is entirely possible. That duo, or that trio, can be something spectacular on an offensive and defensive perspective. Because you can hide the deficiencies of Tyrese Maxey on the defensive end with, again, Paul George and Joel Embiid. And with the three-headed monster that Maxey, George, and Embiid can bring, add your offensive, essentially, cornerstones. Hey, 35 points per game from Joel Embiid, 25 to 30 from PG, and 20 to 25 from Tyrese Maxey on a night-to-night basis. That's great. And Tyrese can be your playmaker. And you can have isolation on 3 different levels. Outright in the perimeter, on the wing and on the end, driving to the hoop with PG, and on the inside with Joel Embiid. You can't, now it's easier for you to make the most out of the mismatches with this better breadth of individual talent, at least on paper. That's what it looks like. But still, they can be beat. Because if they are not healthy, like we've seen in the past with this squad, strictly with Joel Embiid alone, let alone with Paul George now adding to this regime, looking at a squad that is built to end themselves in their own ability to compete if they can't stay healthy. It's the biggest what if on this roster. If you don't have the health to be able to stay consistent and to be able to be on the floor, all of this is for naught. Every single good thing that this squad has to offer when it comes to being a competing championship caliber team, this is what can kill you. Injuries alone. It's the biggest thing that's held this team back in the past, and even now, it can still be the thing that holds this team back, keeps this team from achieving the very same thing that happened over in LA with the Clippers can translate over again with the 76ers. If, in fact, we see that injuries become another concern, not to mention the fact that Paul George is 34 years old. He's in his prime, but at the end of his prime. Another major injury could potentially derail what you think you're going to get from Paul George. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not wishing it to happen. But with the history of injuries that we've seen from both Joel Embiid and from Paul George, while Paul George was the more reliable player of the duo of him and Kawhi, it's still a situation where both of them did have to sit out. Both of them were on the hot seat for why load management was a major issue in the NBA. Both of them were reasons why, in terms of Kawhi and PG, there were reasons why everybody was saying, hey, Where is the basketball on this supposedly great basketball squad? Because the hoopers on this team never see the floor. Paul George being one of them. That was a major concern. Now when you have that and paired with another injury-riddled yet elite caliber player, we're looking at a recipe for potential disaster. Because now all this money, all this time, all these resources for a win-now situation can all be thrown out the window strictly by one fluke incident. One single happening that derails this entire potential operation. And the city of brotherly love turns into a city of hate. Because now, oh my gosh, we fell into the trap. We fell for the potential worst case scenario. Because we were blinded by what was, or what looked like the best of the best in terms of, hey, this is exactly what we need. A great dominant secondary star that has actual floor spacing and defense and offensive capabilities. And on the offensive end and defensive end of the floor is consistent. This is what we wanted. So we needed. So we asked for from our superstar. Didn't get it from Ben Simmons. We got it from Joel Embiid, but then he was left all alone. Tyrese Maxey was butting into his own, but still wasn't the it guy. In terms of we need somebody that can translate to both in production. Defensive and offensive production. Now we got that. Can hide the discrepancies of what our weaker links are and bolster the talents of the best players on the floor. Paul George is a player that can fit into just about any type of system in the NBA. He's got that type of skill set. Legitimate. Yeah, he could play better off ball, but in terms of what his active talent can be, we've seen it be effective. We've seen it be great. A 3-level scorer who can defend anybody in the NBA, who has size to take advantage of mismatches, can get and penetrate to the hole, has a handle, and isn't deficient just when, hey, he can't adapt. We've seen this brother at his best come up and be something. He's been a leader. He's been a secondary star. To a degree, at one point in time, he was seen as a third caliber star. Again, amongst that trio of him, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. We've seen this work. He can take on a multitude of faces and still look good. This is a great piece. That piece is just volatile because it can shatter easily. And if you break it, this could be another situation. You're looking back at LA and now you're looking at the 76ers and you don't see a difference because this same history is now repeating itself. And specifically with the Clippers, this is the real problem when it comes to now with this trade. This is the end of an era. And since it's the end of an era, we have to sit back and say, it's a complete failure. It's a complete failure. Again, LA is leaving the crypto arena, or what I like to call the Staples Center, because I hate the name crypto arena. But the sharing tandem of LA and the Clippers and the Lakers, both in the same building in LA, has now ended in a whimper. And it's ended in an outright look of shame because they disappointed what their roster looked like they could be. Ever since this team got together, in terms of Steve Ballmer came in and looked to build something great. The moves were incredibly good. The roster was there. You had everything that you needed, and yet still you failed. Even before Kawhi and PG, we touched on this in the past. When it came to Chris Paul, Lob City, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, that was before Steve Ballmer, but you get what I'm saying. Failed. Should have been better, but didn't. Then you go on to the new era of the Clippers. Kawhi, PG, and James Harden all get there, and you still fail. It's a situation where Kawhi and that roster had the NBA at their feet. Were, in my opinion, arguably the best built team in basketball. Had a number one guy that was in talks of being the best player in the NBA, though he wasn't top 3 to 5, absolutely at his best. Pair him with Paul George, who again was at one point in time MVP caliber, averaged 29 points, we just talked about. Was better at or closer to the peak of his powers than he is now. And the roster around him with people like Zubac, with people like Patrick Beverly, Morris, Covington, you had a well-oiled machine that should have been able to do something. They should have been able to get over the hump. They should have been so much better. This was the time to take over LA. And you still didn't do it. Kawhi never played. PG got hurt. Your tandem never worked out. Your trio never worked out. You as a roster and as an organization were right there to beat something. And you never became what your potential was. It's a crying shame. And this might have been your last opportunity. Because if you're looking to build around Kawhi Leonard next season, now that Paul George is out of here, where do you go? What do you get? There's really nobody else that can really make a major difference. Because the main problem on your team right now is the fact that your number one guy is never able to be healthy. Lack of health leads to lack of consistency. Lack of consistency leads to a lack of production. Seeing this with Los Angeles right across the street. The whole reason why this team, in terms of LA Lakers, why they were able to be, or they look like, and I've been saying they are built to succeed, is because when we've seen them have consistency just in their lineups alone, and when health was not a factor, they were able to play and gel and get us some level, not just consistent play, but camaraderie with each other. Now with LA and the Clippers, you never got that with Kawhi. You would go on so much. You would seem like, hey, this is it. And even still, something would happen. And everything fell apart. It is a beautiful glass paint, or a beautiful glass pane that was shining bright over the NBA as the sun shone through. And that sun that was shining through that beautiful glass pane was the potential of what this team could be, showing over the rest of the NBA. Yet still, that pain kept on shattering, kept on cracking, kept on losing, and it kept on being chipped and damaged. All because Kawhi Leonard, for some reason, could not stay healthy. When everything else on that squad looked beautiful, the main cornerstone piece never could stay where it needed to be, never could stay on the glass. It never was able to stay healthy in terms of Kawhi Leonard. And Paul George to a lesser degree, but still, he was a cornerstone. And now we'll see what happens. We see the Clippers now ending their tenure in the Whipper, looking to now rebuild as a whole, from what I can gather, because at this point in time, I don't know who you're going to be able to get as a great number two running mate for Kawhi Leonard. Though I can believe you have more cap space now with you, again, letting go of PG. You could get Jeremy Grant, but even so, it's not going to move the needle greatly. DeMar DeRozan, potentially, with them being mad at the trade of Caruso for Josh Giddey, seeing Kawhi and DeRozan take turns killing the entire NBA with mid-range buckets. That would be great. That would be fun to see, at least for me. Throwback to early 2000s level ball. Maestros in the mid-range. That's what you would call them. But it wouldn't move the needle of championship aspirations. This is a problem with the Clippers. Because now when you did all this, constantly having on the cusp aspirations of title hopes, and now you falter, and now it's done. It's gone. And there's nothing else that you can really build off of, in my estimation, that can really put you back at that same level of, hey, this team can be dangerous. Now, no. I don't think it's going to be. And I think you wasted your opportunity now to have another window for a title. And this is it. Most likely we can see in the next couple, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next years, 2 years, we see Kawhi get traded. Because at this point in time, it's going to be a whole rebuild. This is the start of the domino effect of moves being made to retool entirely. That new stadium that they got in terms of with the LA Clippers is going to be going through some struggle. The entertainment that stadium will bring will be amongst concessions and the amenities that this stadium has. Because when it comes to production on the floor, in a couple years, it's going to be a big turnover. And I guarantee you, ain't going to be fun, at least from what I can see on the horizon. But that's just my opinion. But again, we still got more to cover. Like with other moves in the NBA, we now have Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama are teaming up together real quick. And thank goodness, my gosh, finally, this is the best thing we could have imagined for Wemby in his early start to a career. Getting somebody that works right alongside him, a true point guard. Absolutely. A straight up floor general. Yes, we know Chris Paul's nowhere close to what he used to be. We get that entirely. He's nowhere close to the major star, the MVP caliber star that he was. Even the star that he was on the Clippers, on the Rockets before injury. He's going to get probably a worse version of what the Warriors got in Chris Paul. But in terms of the development of Wembanyama, this is so good. This is so good. Because the biggest thing we were complaining about last season was the fact that Victor Wembanyama, for all of his talent, was being, to a degree, still, not even to a degree, outright underutilized. Because of the fact that he was being isolated by his own teammates. Not getting the ball when he was wide open. Lobs that should have been thrown absolutely getting missed or ignored entirely. Opportunities where he could take over the game by himself if you just fed him when he beat his man or when he got open. When he has a mismatch. Never did it. This is a brother who in the second half of the season was shooting upwards of 40% from three. Has averaged 3 blocks a game. Has been, arguably should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. On top of, was one of the best offensive options in the entirety of the league. We saw the development, even from him just having to make everything on his own. And we're being completely honest. This is now an opportunity that the league is scared to see. A player like Wembanyama, who has the capacity and the caliber of talent, not just to get open, but to dominate. Now with a point guard that can now find him in the smallest of openings, but all the openings that he will find him in will be huge because it's Victor Wembanyama. And is smart enough to take advantage of the biggest target in the NBA, the biggest target on the floor. And this is going to be a nightmare for anybody in the NBA. I'm telling you, we could see Chris Paul all of a sudden look like, hey, wait a minute. Where was this on the Warriors? Where was this level of production on the Warriors? Now he's playing with this type of generational talent as a true and through big man who, again, can do everything else on the floor. We get that. But he plays to his size. That's what I mean when I say true and through. Not just that, he plays down low. No, he takes advantage of the size that he has. The skill set of a guard, but with the mentality of a big man. I'm going to make sure that whatever I do is always with the intention of maximizing my authority, physical capability, and physical authority over you as the smaller player. We've seen that for his entire first rookie season. Now, with somebody like Chris Paul is going to be a mentor and an asset on the floor. This is going to be incredible. My gosh. Pick and rolls with them are going to be insane. Oh boy. This could be the start of something potentially great as the Spurs continue to build off of Wembanyama. Build around Wembanyama. And Wemby, Chris Paul, and Pop. Again, a great coach still needs pieces to be great. And Pop has shown when he has the pieces, he can turn the team into a championship organization. Saw it with the Spurs early on when David Robinson was getting old and Tim Duncan got into the league. Then adding Tony Parker, then adding DeMond Ginobili. Next thing you know, players like Boris Diaw and others were looked at as high-value assets because the system that he built, surrounded by, or rather cornerstone by, the 3 key pieces now makes a scheme run to perfection. Now with Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama, could be seeing the budding start of the true aspirations that Popovich has when it comes to building a team around Victor Wembanyama. This could be scary. This could be incredibly scary. And finally, when it comes to the world in the NBA, with Klay Thompson, it is indeed an end of an era because the Warriors fans around the world are now sitting up and saying,
hey, look at this! We got some problems here! We got some problems here!
Yes, they do, because they are no longer the team of old. The dynasty is officially done. Klay Thompson is going to be out of the Warriors. Now, some people are cheering, saying hoopla, Thank you so much. Yes, finally, the Warriors are done. Down with Golden State. All the shrugging, the showboat, and the three-point shooting, we ain't got to deal with that no more. That's what some people are saying. Others are absolutely in distress. Others are absolutely crestfallen, downtrodden, utterly dismayed at the fact that this duo, or rather the trio that many people and many fans grew up on, are now over. But I've been saying for the longest time, this is the right decision. It's the right move. Klay Thompson, yes, he did shoot upwards of 38% from 3 last season. But still, there was a clear discrepancy on what his production was, especially when playoffs came around. Again, let's not forget, this is the brother who went 0-10 from 3 in the finals, not in the finals, but in an elimination game. Klay Thompson went 0-10 in an elimination game. We are not going to let that slide. We still understand that is where Klay Thompson has been at this stage in his career. Underperforming, underwhelming, absolutely more of a liability than he is an asset for the Warriors. His defense has been slacking and getting worse year after year after year. It didn't help that Klay Thompson and his knee injuries helped speed up the degradation of his abilities as a player on both ends of the floor. Now, he's gone. And it's smart because you got to make a move to keep your championship aspirations alive if you are the Warriors. It's an opportunity. Steph is what, 35? Going closer to 36, I believe, just about. Whatever his age is, it's up there. It is not a spring chicken. Yet he is still playing at an incredibly high caliber, top 10 level play. This is still in a window for the Warriors to compete. If they did not make this move, they were going to be meddling again. No longer would they be able to there would be no window because it would be shut. Because the same level of production would have happened again with Klay Thompson. A move had to be made. This is the right move. Now where is he going to go? Because at this stage in his career, he can't be a second option in scoring anymore. But he could still be a great third scoring option on his new team because, ladies and gentlemen, we officially have another trade as the Dallas Mavericks now have acquired Klay Thompson. That is right. Klay is now a Maverick. We thought he was going to be a Laker. We thought it was going to be rumors for, hey, maybe even the Nuggets maybe could make a move to try to pick him up as a great shooting option, but no. Luka and Kyrie now have a running mate, a dominant three-point shooter in Klay Thompson. Now, this was a move, and rather before I even continue, sorry for the jump cut, had to go and change because as this was all blowing up, it was as I was recording, couldn't do this until after the episode ended, rather after I finished recording. So apologies if it looks like a brand new episode. Same great content, same great show, just a different look in the middle of the episode, but don't go nowhere. We still got more to cover, trust and believe, but even still, getting with this Klay Thompson trade, hey, this is huge for the runner-ups of the NBA championship. We're looking at a roster that was bereft of rather desperate for shooting. Needed some level of offensive output beyond just Kyrie and Klay and Luka Doncic, or rather, and just Luka Doncic, perfectly honest, as Kyrie wet the bed in the finals. It happens. Okay, cool. But they needed some more elite offensive talent at their disposal to be able to have somebody outside of Derrick Jones Jr. and Tim Hardaway Jr. shooting from beyond the arc when you need them most, which is abysmal. If you're putting Tim Hardaway Jr. in a finals game, you already know that you lost. But still, when it comes to Klay Thompson, we now have a roster that looks like it's coming together even better. This could be a great way for them to be able to run it back. I'm not saying it's going to move the needle greatly, but what I am saying is with Klay and Luka and Kyrie, now with a dominant ball handler who can pass the ball like a savant. Kyrie Irving, who is, again, arguably the best ISO player in the game today. One of the most skilled players that we've seen in NBA history from the whole of his offensive talent. Now you pair Klay Thompson, who, mind you, regardless of what we've been saying about him as a player and his degrading of talent, he still shot 38% from 3 last year. One of the best in the league. Mind you, LeBron shot 40 at 38 years old. We saw him still put up 18 points a game, just about 17.9, but even still, as a great scorer, he can still be somebody that can give you buckets. Yes, he's greatly diminished, but it's still a valuable asset to have and a necessary move for the Mavericks. They want an opportunity to get back at the chance to have a championship aspiration, to have an opportunity to reclaim glory, to get another crack at the plate. They needed this move. And it was a great fit. One I didn't see coming, but one that, hey, it makes sense. Now, that's the good. The bad with that, however, is that it's Klay Thompson and his physical capabilities have greatly diminished. One of the biggest things about why they got steamrolled by the Celtics was the fact that their defense couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't stop Jaylen Brown. Couldn't stop Jason Tatum, even though, hey, he kind of stopped himself on the offensive end, but as a playmaker, still came out to play. Couldn't stop Kristaps Porzingis. There's still holes on defense that need to be rectified if we want to see this Dallas Mavericks team truly be able to achieve what we wanted them to last year, what most of the NBA wanted to last year, which is them winning a championship. If they want to have that aspiration, defense is still a high caliber factor. Even just as much, if not more, so than just the outright offensive output that you can have on the floor surrounding Luka and Kyrie. So with that being a real concern still, Klay is not going to fit that. He will answer one aspect of their problems, but not answer the other. 3-point shooting, you got it. A third option scorer that can give you 18 to 20 off of catch and shoot alone, you got it, absolutely. But when it comes to defense, you've lost that. Now you've lost something. You lost, or rather, you become worse defensively on the perimeter. Because again, while mentally we know Klay Thompson is a great defender, and we knew he was a great defender at his prime. One of the best guard defenders in the league when he was at his peak before the injury. But since the injury, we're looking at a different player entirely. We're looking at a player who has become a liability on the Warriors due to his lack of ability to be able to defend nearly at the rate that he used to. On top of with his shooting greatly diminished in his role in Golden State. That's what made it, it's got to make a move. Because this is just hurting on all fronts. Now you just got a shooter who's getting not as good and dominant as he was shooting as a second option on the squad. And defensively, he's getting more and more lax due to his injuries taking away his physical capabilities. Now you're getting the worst defensive version of Klay Thompson. And one of the worst offensive versions of Klay Thompson. Again, he still shot, like I said, nearly 40% from three. Still put up 18 points a game. But this is still not what we knew or what we know of prime Klay. We saw there was a big discrepancy, and everybody's saying, they got to move him. There is a real concern. This could be a great move. As a third option piece, this could be great. But there's still, even with this being a big deal, this is a huge move. This is a market-setting move from the standpoint of Paul George, Klay Thompson, some of the biggest names in free agency. Now that they're both gone, stuff is going to start happening most likely. But more stuff is going to start happening. And who knows in the coming days who gets signed where. But even still, some of the people, one of the biggest stopping blocks was where Klay would go. Now that we know where he's going, we'll probably see the rest of the free agency start to evolve and change and move forward. But the point is, in all of this, we see Klay as somebody on Dallas who can be a great veteran player, great three-point shooter, and answer to the prayer that the Mavericks needed for more offensive consistency and output and better three-point shooting from beyond the arc to make floor spacing even better for your isolation players in Kyrie and Luka. Great. Take some of the load off of Luka as being the only person that can make threes. Some of the load off of Kyrie is the only person that can make threes on his own. Get a dominant corner threat or just three-point shooting threat outright. A person who's been to a title multiple times, understands what it takes to win, while his playoff success hasn't been nearly what it used to be. Still, he has the wisdom that can help this squad of many people who this was their first time getting acclimated to the big lights of the NBA Finals or that deeper run into the playoffs outright. This is a great piece for Dallas, in theory. It could backfire, but it could also be great. We'll have to see what happens. But my gosh, this is what I love about free agency. It's going to be some interesting stuff going on next season as to whether or not this Klay Thompson move was the right decision or if it was the wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But again, back to the regularly scheduled episode. And the rest of the show, like we said earlier, we got boxing to cover as well. We got some more stuff in the NBA. But before we even continue, one more thing. This could be something you need to understand. Remember when we talked about how Bronny James getting to play with LeBron? Well, it finally happened. He got drafted. Now that that's happened, is this good or is it bad? And is it nepotism? Strictly, we'll talk about nepotism first. Nepotism in the NBA has been something that's been running rampant for years. Jeannie Buss, again, got the team from Jerry Buss. Got the team from his dad, whoever the hierarchy works. Kept it in the family. Jerry Jones, the Cowboys organization. Go look at the executive positions. All of them are somebody related to Jerry Buss. Or excuse me, Jerry Jones, my bad. We've seen this countless times. This is not a conversation that nepotism needs to be all of a sudden bad. No. This is not a conversation. We're not about to do this. We've seen this countless times in the league of somebody using their position in their name to get somebody else related to them or close to them in a position to be successful. Colleges, all the time. Have we not seen legacies get in strictly off the alma mater or off of the status of their parents, mom or dad went there? Sororities and fraternities letting people in just because they are legacy people, though they may be trash as what they mean to the organization. Trash brothers and sisters of whatever sorority they are on or fraternity that they're on, in terms of they don't represent at all the makeup of what that frat or sorority is supposed to be, yet still they are able to cross and make it because of their parents, because of their mom or dad. Businesses around the world only hiring their sons and or daughters, keeping stuff in the family. We have seen this countless times, yet nobody calls it out. How is that not nepotism? Where is this? Again, I'm not degrading this. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not playing devil's advocate of what's good or what's bad. I'm saying the same situations, both in sports and beyond, have happened in the NBA, yet still nobody says a thing. Nobody said a thing. Do you not think that Del Curry helped his son be able to develop as a player by getting him access to stuff that other people just don't get strictly off of his name alone? Specifically in Charlotte, but also beyond. Not just because he's rich, but also with his status and name. We have seen this. We know this to be true. Why is it? And again, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying this is not something that is all of a sudden a problem. No. We can't all of a sudden say nay to thee, but not for me. Or hold some people or some situations in this certain demonstrative regard. And then other situations that's just, it's whatever. No, this is not bad. Bronny James is in the league because of LeBron. We get that completely. He's a big part of why. Yes, he had a cardiac arrest that did affect his play to some degree. But he still played in college and didn't put up great numbers at USC. I believe it's USC with the Trojans where he played. We get that. We did perform well in the combine. Understandable. But still, most likely if it wasn't his dad, he was not getting drafted by many players in the NBA or by many teams in the NBA. If not at all, he probably would have gone undrafted. Then got picked up by somebody or gone to the G League, or like he had in his initial stint when he first declared for the draft, could have gone back to college. If I remember that story correctly. Had an opportunity, if he didn't get drafted, to go back and play in college again. So we get it. It's not bad though. We're not going to hold it against him. This is a historical event with LeBron being the first player to play with his son. Are we not going to applaud, unlike any other situation where other people and other personnel who have, let's be perfectly honest, you are not good at your job, but just because you're rich, you were able to get into this position. And now you're putting everybody else in this position, but your job yourself, you really shouldn't be in the right to make these decisions because your production should take that away because you haven't produced anything, whether it's an owner, whether it's the businessman. We've seen this before. So when it comes to LeBron, who has been one of the greatest players in NBA history, still a top 10 player today, broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record, broke the outright scoring record in basketball history, has made every other record in the NBA, One of the most we've seen. Record books are now looking like Wilt Chamberlain when it comes to every list he's either on or at the top of. Has been 21 years, no problems, no issues. Everything that you would want from a superstar. He's been all that and more. And he's earned the right even now to have sway to make his team do something that can affect not just his chances of winning, but also his chances of staying. It makes sense that he's got this level of power. So for you to all of a sudden be able to say, oh no, how dare he? This is a league full of nepotism babies and all this stuff. No, it's not. Or rather, it's not a problem. Because now you're making it a problem because it's LeBron. No, because you've seen this with your own eyes countless times before. In your own life, countless times before. Yet had nothing to say. We're not going to do this. LeBron earned the right to use a power play to get his son in the NBA. The team had to do it to keep him happy. If they wanted to keep LeBron around, had to do this to keep him happy. One. And two, let's not act like, again, when he did go to the combine, he did show some level of, hey, this can be something serious. Other players have talked about Bronny as being somebody, as much stuff has been said that he isn't ready. Other people have said, oh no, he is indeed ready. I'm not saying he's going to be a great player. I'm not saying he's going to be a bum. I'm not saying he's going to be a star. I'm not saying he's going to be his dad. I'm saying he's going to be Bronny. Let this opportunity go. It's not a bad pick because low risk, high reward. Nobody cared about the second round anyway, we're being completely honest, when it comes to the NBA draft. Not saying that there can't be gems found, but what I am saying is that all of a sudden for you to care about what's going on in this level of round, understanding the position that the Lakers were in, the position that LeBron had put himself in with his body of work, and understanding that you yourself did not care about anybody else except for Bronny, if we're being completely honest. You couldn't name anybody else in that second round unless you're a diehard college fan. There's no way you could have been saying, hey, this is what the world, you're taking advantage, you're taking away these opportunities from these other people. You wouldn't have cared about these other people. You would have said, why is he in the league in the first place? Who is this schmuck? That's what you have been saying. That's what you would have been saying. So no. We are looking at this situation as a great opportunity. I hope other players who did not get this opportunity still are able to go through G League, go through 10 days, and become great players in the league. We can wish all of that. We want to see everybody eat. We want to see everybody eat. We do. But for all of a sudden to hold LeBron as, hey, you're a problem, and not other owners at the same accountability. Other business people at the same accountability. Coaches, same accountability. College and professional. No reason at all. No reason at all that this should be something that is a conversation. Witnessing history, LeBron earned the right to have this level of power. And the only reason he's used it in this instance because this is something he's been wanting for a long time. And Bronny, again, in the combine, did show some level of there can be something there. So there is some level of, hey, it isn't just, he doesn't deserve to be in the league at all. He's got at least some level of credibility. He does. This can be great. It can be work out miserably. But either way, this is not nepotism that all of a sudden is a rampant issue. It's something that somebody earned the power, has been doing right this entire time. Now when the one quote-unquote nepotism-like move to play with his son, which anybody would want, he does it and you have a problem, that's ridiculous and stupid. Utterly baffling. It should not be something that is so irate to you. It's not an issue. It's not a problem. But switching gears from the world of the NBA into the world of boxing, it is time to step into the ring. That's right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started right here on this show, first segment of this boxing show going underway. We have to discuss Juan Francisco Estrada getting knocked out by Bam Rodriguez, and this is a fight this is my first time seeing Bam fight live fully, and this brother is all the hype and more. This was a phenomenal display of outright savantism and destruction, all wrapped up into one. Let me tell you something, Bam Rodriguez is an absolute menace. That brother lives up to his name, and he proved it against another legend. This is not just a one-off situation. No, if you don't know, in this division, I believe with flyweights, this is a division where he's beaten now Sonny Edwards. He's beaten Quartez. I believe I'm saying his name right. Is it Quartez? Do I have it right? Quartez? And now has beaten Juan Francisco Estrada. Knocked out Sonny Edwards and Estrada. So he's gone and beaten either high caliber elite fighters or legends in the division. And mind you, this is a brother who, Jose Estrada, every win that you'll rather Juan Francisco Estrada, every loss that he's taken in his career, he's made it back up in blood. This isn't like this is somebody who just a pushover. No, this is a legend. This is a Hall of Famer. This is the brother who's been established. This is a serious threat going up against somebody, a young lion, a young bull. This was Bam Rodriguez. This was his opportunity to stamp his name in the ethos of boxing as a whole, to where I've arrived, and I'm more than arrived, I'm here to dominate. And he did just exactly that from the first round. As we break down the fight, from the first round, that brother looked physically and technically leagues above Estrada. Mind you, Estrada's elite. Estrada is a phenomenal defensive and offensive fighter. And he just looked outclassed from the first jab that he threw. Bam looked stronger. Bam looked sharper. Bam looked quicker. Bam's footwork was incredible. And he knocked him down in the third round, I believe. Yeah, knocked him down in the fourth round. After, again, dominating with great defense and offense combined. The dominating jab, great combination punches on the inside, getting out the way and making Estrada look old and slow. And it seemed like this was just an outright mismatch. And it was going to be ended early, especially after that knockdown. The next thing you know, we see Estrada come back and knock down Bam Rodriguez. And like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Oh, the old lion's coming back. The old lion's being aggressive. The old lion is doing work. He ain't just going to give up this torch lightly. And we got to see Bam Rodriguez tested probably the most we've seen him in his career. Because I believe that was the first time he's been knocked down. And somebody who, when he's normally dominating at this level, there's no coming back when it comes to Bam Rodriguez. But when Estrada was able to come back and show, I still got some fight left in me. Even more than that, I'm still a threat. This was a proving ground for Bam to show, are you indeed pound for pound material? This is your opportunity to make your name known in terms of the pantheon of who's the best in the world. This is your biggest test. This is your crossroads. And he answered it flawlessly. Came out sharper after that knockdown. Inevitably went to the body and knocked him out. Doubled up. Essentially, it was similar to the shot that we saw Tank give to Ryan Garcia when he knocked him out. That straight, I wasn't going to call it an uppercut, but it was more so kind of just a straight spear-like punch right to the kidney. Took him out. Doubled up on him. You almost missed the first punch if you weren't really, really looking. And it caught him and hurt him. Dropped him. Looked like he was going to be able to get up, but didn't. This was an outright, it was a historical display because it proved Bam toughness, it proved Bam's chin, proved Bam's heart, and it proved the ability to be able to step up and make more than what his talent already was. Or rather, let me rephrase that. Elevate his talent even more than all he was. When it was going up against somebody who was indeed pushing him to be better. That's exactly what Estrada did. That's exactly what Bam Rodriguez did. It was an incredible display. And in terms of the talent that we saw Bam show in this fight, as we break down Bam Rodriguez specifically, we saw Bam and what makes him such a great fighter It's the fact that he's so well-rounded in everything. So well-rounded in everything. Again, this was a fight similar to Inoue versus Nonito Donaire 1. That first encounter. When we saw Nonito Donaire going up against Inoue, who was the rising monster that was taking over the world by storm, dominating and leaving bodies every which way in his wake. He all of a sudden gave us a side of Inoue that we had never seen before. When Inoue was tested and somebody was able to match him, what could Inoue do? And we saw him answer the call. This was what we saw with Bam Rodriguez. We saw this with Bam. We saw this talent. We saw this ability. And it was incredible. Again, the angles and footwork that he was using in this fight to land uppercuts, win, and still be safe was phenomenal. Using that essentially sidestep uppercut to where he would switch angles and land it right through the guard. It was incredible. The combination punching was sublime from Bam Rodriguez. The fight IQ on Bam is so high. It's so good, and he's so young. He is so young with all of this talent at his disposal. This is a man who's just got it. He's got it. It's that it factor of one of the best in the world from a technical perspective and just a fighter standpoint. He's got that it factor as being one of the best in the world. It's a different level of boxing when you watch him fight versus anybody else in the world. Elite fighters have that type of aura around them. Terrance Crawford, Inoue, Canelo, Tank, Usyk. There's a different level. It's unique from everybody else in the sport. He's got it. He's got it. I saw it from the jump from round one. It's a unique blend of just a blending pot of just different types of skill sets. Again, angles and footwork, defense and slipping, the ability to fight on the inside, to go to war while also outboxing. Mind you, he was outboxing Estrada. This is a great technical boxer. He made Estrada look old and bad for the first part of this fight. Absolutely whitewashed him for the first couple rounds. It was insane. It was insane. It was just absolutely insane. He's got the accuracy, one of the most accurate punchers in the world. Technically, he's so sound. He can go to war. He was able to go for the kill. He's smart enough to be able to make sure he doesn't smother anything. It's so much that goes into his ability. And physically, he's so big. Naturally, he's so quick and so fast and explosive. He's got such fast twitch muscles and the ability to essentially instinctively adapt when necessary. And the chin and the heart is undeniable on what this brother brings to the table, as we saw against his toughest test, against a legend who is still good. Everybody thought this was going to be a situation where, hey, this is going to be, he's going to go into the sunset. No. They're calling for a rematch. I would watch this fight again. This was phenomenal. This was absolutely incredible. Now I'll get into what's going to happen in that rematch later on. But I can guarantee you this right now. The ability for Estrada and Bam to put on an absolute incredible fight. Loved it. And specifically with Bam Rodriguez, the ability for him to be able to be so calm amongst the rising pressure of Estrada, looking like he's been there before, doing what works and not getting away from it. Again, landing uppercuts, consistently going to the well, rather than what we've seen with other fighters. When something works and they still don't go back to it, he consistently went back to it, but in different ways that it still always was able to work. Even when he was getting pressured and it seemed like the tide was turning after that knockdown by Estrada, he still was able to stay calm, stay composed, and keep going to the well of what was working and make little minute changes that swung the fight back in his favor and made it so that he could still implement his ultimate game plan of seeking and destroying. It was subtle stuff. He does the subtle stuff in a blink of an eye. That just, it boggles the mind. We have,
Hey, look at this. We got the problems here.
we got a problem on our
The
hands.
problems here.
Bam Rodriguez is a problem. Bam Rodriguez is a real problem in the boxing landscape. This is a bad brother. I'm telling you, this cat is something different. This brother's something different in boxing. Oh gosh, this is my first time being able to see him. He's one of my favorite fighters right now. This was so incredible to watch. So incredible. He's got everything you would want in a fighter. Everything you would want. Everything I would want. And he's still getting better. There's still stuff that he can still improve on. As good as his defense was, he can still get better. As much as he was able to dominate, there are still things that Estrada did that we're going to see Bam learn from and become even more outright over-encompassing over anybody that he fights next time around. And if what I see in him is true, similar to Inoue, he won't make the same mistake twice. Yes, we understand the Mexican style of boxing leads you into being more vulnerable potentially to being caught clean. We get that because it's an aggressive, it's a warrior's code. It's a warrior style. You go in looking for a fight. You want to be put in the fire, in the danger. That's where your heart's tested. That's what that style of boxing is. It's an incredibly beautiful display of destruction. It's a dance of violence, unlike anything else in the boxing world. We get that. But even with that, still, he's so smart. He's able to fight like it and still be out clean in terms of getting out clean. It's incredible. It's incredible what we saw from him. It's incredible what we were able to, what I, for the first time, got to experience in terms of what makes this brother so good, so great. And I can guarantee you right now, this is a rising star. It's going to be one of the best in the world. I would not be surprised if in a couple, God give it 2 years, we're going to start talking about him as one of the best 5 in the world right now. And he's accomplished so much at this age. Already a 2-time champion, has beaten legend after top contender after legend without fail. And has elevated his game every single time. Again, he beat Quaidars. Excuse me, that's how you say his name, I believe. He beat Quaidars. Unanimous decision. Knocked out Sonny Edwards, who was supposed to be the best pure boxer in that division. Outboxed him and then knocked him out. And now he beats Juan Francisco Estrada, who's been a cornerstone in this division. A legend among legends of this division. Somebody who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. A dominating force who's faced off against Gonzalez and avenged his loss and beat him twice. We're not looking at just a fluke win. No. If you know this sport, you know how impressive this is. And when it comes to how he ranks as a boxer, boy, let me tell you something. That talent that he's got coupled with the accomplishments that he's currently done. He's in my pound for pound top 10. He is. And as of right now, he's above Tank Davis. Tank's at 10. I'll put Bam between 7 and 9. Perfectly fine. Reason being, he's already accomplished so much, and he can still accomplish a lot. If he moves up to bantamweight and goes, let's say he rematches Estrada, beats him, goes up and moves up to bantamweight, and still dominates, we got a conversation now. We got something good now. Let him be, what's his name? Who's that brother that's currently ranked? Per the Transatlantic Boxing Board, or excuse me, Transnational Boxing Ranking Board, who I deem as highly reputable in terms of ranking top 10 boxers. Teddy Atlas also verifies them as somebody who is legitimately good at putting into context my criteria for how I deem as a boxer in the pound for pound ranking should be seen. They do that. In my estimation, I think it's phenomenal. When it comes to that ranking, I may not agree with everything. It's about right. It's about right and good. Let this brother beat Junto Nakatani. Junto Nakatani at bantamweight eventually, if he moves up. Again, it's still, don't hatch their chickens before they hatch. If he does go move up to bantamweight, beats Estrada, goes to bantamweight, wins titles there, beats Nakatani, now we can have a conversation of, wait a minute, hold on now. Where is this brother really going to be ranked? You might have to bump him up some more. And if we're being completely honest, there is a fantasy fight that we could see. But again, we'll get to that later on. Strictly with Bam in his ranking, I have him in my top 10. After seeing this, I had to put him in. And coupled with the accomplishments that he's already done, and the dominating nature that he's faced off against high caliber legends who have came out and produced every single time, he deserves to be in the top 10. Above Tank because of the consistency on top of the ability and the dominating nature of his performances. And the accolades that he's achieved up until this point, which has been my criteria. You can argue he should be above Teofimo Lopez as well. There's a real argument he should be Teofimo Lopez. He should be above Teofimo Lopez. Because again, everything I just said. While Teo's accomplished more. Understandable. The night-to-night consistency that we've seen Bam fight and the outright consistency of just fighting as a whole. And the names that he's fought are still incredibly impressive. And the outright dominating display on a night-to-night basis has been there. Against elite competition. Mind you, he's already, Teofimo's what, 26, 25? Bam's already 24. He's already matched him in the amount of fights that he said. This is what we initially saw Teofimo doing when he beat Lomachenko. But now we're seeing that elevated to another level when it comes to Bam Rodriguez. Absolutely, he deserves to be in top 10. Above Tank and Gervonta. Now, he's not better than Tank. He's not better than Tank as a talent. No. But as a fighter, what he's done, pound for pound, legacy-wise, he's done so much more. So much more. Just like most of the people in the pound for pound have done more than Tank. He's working his way up. Hey now. But at this point in time, Bam's done more. Beating the names and beating Estrada was the last thing I needed to put him in this and put him above certain people. Now, you can have your list of whoever the world you want to. Understand. Again, if you want to do the Transnational Boxing Board and go by their rankings, understandable. And make your list based off of that. Great. Fine. Your list is subjective. The list is subjective as a whole. I get that completely. But that still doesn't mean for me. I'm not going to change, or I'm not going to make changes unless something is apropos and justly due. Since that's the case, I have to say that Bam deserves to be in the pound for pound. Above Tank, for me, above Teofimo Lopez. And then from there, you go down this way, at minimum 8. Or 9, depending on how highly you have Teofimo Lopez. Everything could change, absolutely. But we're looking at somebody who is so incredibly talented. My gosh, this brother is a spectacle to see. And when it comes to potential fights, let's talk about what everybody's been talking about. Will he fight anyway? Can he fight anyway? Right now he is at, I believe, flyweight. Going up again and beating Estrada and whatnot of the like. But still, when it comes to him versus Inoue, it's still a long ways away. Let's make that understood right now. Inoue's at 122 super bantamweight. We have right now Bam Rodriguez at about, what is he? Flyweight. Is he flyweight? No, he's not flyweight. He is, I think super flyweight, excuse me. Yeah, I had to make sure I had that right. Yeah, super flyweight right now. Going then bantamweight to super bantamweight. So he's still 2 weight classes behind. It's not like it's going to be something that's entirely going to happen outright. But let's walk it down right now. Let's walk it down. When it comes to Bam Rodriguez versus Inoue, if that fantasy fight did in fact happen, if we see Inoue stay at 122 and Bam rapidly move up to get to super bantamweight, talk about a spectacle. Oh my gosh, that would be an incredible fight. Incredible fight. 2 people with a similar type of trajectory in terms of how they up and came and absolutely dominated everybody. Were tested against, again, legends of the division, Hall of Famers of the division, pushed farther than we've ever seen them before, and still came out on top in a dominating, beautiful display. It's going to be a spectacle to watch if that fight was to happen. But, am I being completely honest? Inoue still knocks him out. Inoue still knocks him out. If they ever fought against each other, Inoue would knock him out. Inoue would beat him. As much as I love Bam Rodriguez, Inoue would knock him out. And it's because of the fact that Inoue is as sharp. See, here's the thing. As great as we've seen Bam be right now, Inoue's better. Lee's better. Better. Better in every single aspect. Every single metric. Inoue is better. And I'm not saying that trying to be, just hyping up my favorite fighter. No, I'm not doing it. I'm saying from a talent perspective, they ever fought against each other. With how much we saw Estrada still be able to, later on in the fight, give him some work and be able to adapt. Yeah, we saw Bam elevate from Estrada's elevation. But in a way, that's a completely different dog. That's a different animal. He would beat him to Kingdom Come. As much as it would be such a great fight, don't get me wrong, it would be so good, so action-packed, so incredibly exciting. Inoue would knock him out. Knock him out. Because as much of a wizard that we see Bam as right now, Inoue is a technical savant. And the pure technique of Inoue, again, I've said it before, if you want to look at the perfect fighter, makeup, stylistically, and just outright being able as a killer, dotting your I's and crossing your T's at every point, Inoue's that. Inoue is that guy. That guy outright. Again, we've seen that brother get knocked down and then immediately knock the other dude down. We've seen him go into firefights by himself and still come out pure gold. We've seen him fight every single style and dominate each one at an incredibly high level. And he can fight your style better than you can. We've seen similar things with Bam Rodriguez, absolutely. But I don't think if Inoue ever fought Bam, there's a different level of sharpness, technical ability, power, speed, as well as just outright boxing IQ. It's different. It's just different. Because even when Bam was beating Estrada, Bam still, when Estrada was starting to come on a little bit, got caught with some clean stuff. Got caught with stuff that, like, hey, as much as you were dominating the first couple rounds, even with Estrada's elevation, my gosh, this turned into a real fight. Both of you were trading and landing blows. Understandable. Again, this was Bam Rodriguez's Nodito Donaire. This was his defining legacy fight. This was his coming out party. He goes through that, absolutely. And he'll only get better from there. But as of right now, as much as we want to see that fight happen, the power discrepancy is too much. The speed is, we can be perfectly honest, I think it was faster than Bam Rodriguez. Hand speed and foot speed. Footwork is better, though we see Bam use more angles than Inoue. Inoue's footwork usage is more efficient and effective from what I've seen. On top of the fact that defense and offense, we've seen better fight IQ. And outright destructive nature. As much as Bam's body shots are incredible, Inoue is just that much better at every single metric. Master counterpuncher, as well as a master outboxer and inboxer. Infighting, my gosh, would be incredible. It would be incredible to start between the two, but still, Inoue wins that. He wins every single thing. Inoue would win if he went against Bam Rodriguez at this point. Time goes on, however. Who knows how Bam may evolve and overcome. But right now, while it would be an incredible fight, potentially fight of the year candidate, Inoue's knocking out Bam Rodriguez as of right now. In a dream scenario, Inoue knocks him out. Knocks him out clean. At least that's what I feel. But again, only time will tell when that fight actually takes hold and takes action. And also, finally on the show, we need to discuss Teofimo Lopez versus Claggaet. That also happened this weekend, and this was a fight that was incredibly impressive, but at the same time underwhelming, at least for me. And here's why, what you have to understand. He dominated this fight in terms of Teofimo Lopez. Absolutely. Teofimo Lopez dominated Claggaet. Dominated Steve Claggaet. Won just about every single round. There's no debate on that aspect. The problem is, even with him dominating like this, there was some stuff that I just did not like. It was a high competitive or high action, high volume fight. One of the biggest tests in this fight was whether or not Teo's stamina would be able to take hold, or rather would wane, going against somebody who is like Steve Claggaet, who is a constant pressure fighter. Especially after the fight with I believe Jermaine Ortiz, in that fight when he couldn't cut off the ring at all. Now going up against somebody who doesn't have to worry about that, what would he be able to do? Would he be able to handle his business? And he did. And showed phenomenal technique. Looked like Gordo Teofimo Lopez. Slipping, moving, great defensively. Had the speed and had the countering ability. Landing uppercuts, stunned him a couple times. Was able to fight off the ropes. Phenomenal. He looked and dominated like somebody of his caliber should. This is great. This was a quality, well, not quality. This was a good win. I have no qualms there. Didn't move the needle. But that's not bad. Because we were asking for, at least I was asking for from Teofimo Lopez, consistency in your elite production against all opponents. Not fighting up or down to the caliber of your opponent's level, but outright fighting at the same high level. And he did that. Yes, he did. Landing uppercuts to counter in between Claggaet's shot, fighting off the ropes and consistently throwing through what almost, I think through almost 1,000 punches himself. Landed 300, which is incredible, which is insane. Quells any question of his stamina as a boxer, which is great. Looked sharp, looked great, looked comfortable, looked composed against the high pressure and the uncomfortable physical nature of Steve Claggaet. All that is all well and good. The biggest thing I did not like, however, the fact that he couldn't get a KO. Now, KOs are not everything, we understand that. We understand that knockouts do not make up a fighter. Your boxing ability is what makes you a fighter. Knockouts, if you can end the show, great. Phenomenal. It makes you even more dangerous. But it's when you can knock somebody out and you don't that I have a problem with. And that's my problem with Teo. The issue with Teofimo Lopez, he could have stopped Steve Claggaet, but he didn't. He could have gotten Steve Claggaet out of there, let him on in the fight, but he didn't. Even with the high output that he was going up against, with him matching that same level of output, he kept fighting off the ropes. Now, I get it because it was somebody going up against a pressure fighter. Sure, that pressure can push you to the ropes. But if you're willingly backing up, going to the ropes, I don't like that. If you want to fight somebody else's game plan, sure, go ahead. Dominate and win. Loved it. But then at that point, that should mean, okay, you can beat them inside and beat them at their own game. But if you can go and then beat them at their own game, and then do your own thing that would have gotten them out of there, and you don't do it, that's a problem. Steve Claggaet was having the most of his success when he was constantly pushing or obliging Teo, who was consistently going to the ropes, to fight on the inside. And Teo would respond incline with the flurry of punches, constantly landing the cleaner shots to the body and to the head. But then Teo had the most success when he planted his feet, stood his ground, and backed Claggaet up. That's when Claggaet couldn't throw. Those fast and powerful 5-punch combinations that we saw Teofimo Lopez throwing off the ropes that pushed Claggaet to the middle. If he had kept that level of aggression up, he could have stopped Steve Claggaet from coming forward outright. He could have stopped Steve Claggaet from having the uncomfortable success that he was having, though again he was losing, on the inside. He could have stopped fighting off the ropes and gotten Steve Claggaet to be now the man that is getting pushed back. And he could have ended the show. He could have knocked him out. He could have gotten to a point where now Steve is on the defensive instead of the offensive the entirety of the fight. Instead of you fighting off of your back foot, which we know you can do, go to your front foot and get him out of there. And it's important that I say that because you don't get paid overtime. Knockouts aren't everything. They are not. But if you can end the show and you have the ability to end the show and you don't end the show because of your own reasoning, when we saw there were instances in that fight when you started coming forward late in the round, when you started really unloading in between Claggaet's punches, going for big, heavy shots, you stopped all of that forward pressure at a moment's notice and you didn't do it for the rest of the fight after we knew your stamina was indeed ready, you could have gotten him out of there, but you didn't. You could have forced him on the back foot, but you didn't. You could have landed power shots and started really putting heavy shots or heavy weight on that uppercut, but you didn't for the majority of that fight. You had him hurt and then you didn't take advantage of it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because it's like at that point, if you need to pull the trigger, not saying while we know you can. Now, some might bring that up as he may not be able to. I always have a shot at coming back, because even when he has me dominated, he's not going to end the show. Now, again, Steve Claggaet's tough, I understand. But as tough as Steve Claggaet is, there were instances when we saw him have an opportunity to completely turn the tide from this being a close, competitive, active, infighting war into a one-sided domination strictly by putting power and being more aggressive rather than willingly fighting on the ropes and being defensively slick and defensively sound and catching and shooting. It was good inside work, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. Don't get me wrong at all. He did dominate, but it should have been that if you picked up on your aggression, stopped his aggression, and you don't utilize that, that's a problem I have. For me, it's a problem I have. Very much a problem that I have. And now he's looking to move up to 147, which we will end off the show with. Now we got Teofimo Lopez looking to move up to 147, looking to fight at a higher weight class, because he's saying his body's outgrown 140. Cool. Also called out Isaac Cruz. Again, cool. Whichever route that he takes, it's going to be interesting. Because at 147, he wants Terrance Crawford. Well, he's not going to get Terrance Crawford, because Terrance Crawford's fighting at 154. Looking to then fight at 168 against Canelo Alvarez. Down the line after that fight. If he wins, we never know. But then if we see T.O. still want to move up, now he's got to worry about people like Jerron Boots Ennis. Before you even worry about Terrance Crawford, Boots is a brother you need to worry about. Boots is a man that you need to be very much afraid of if you're Teofimo Lopez. Not because you ain't good, but because he is indeed great. He is. He is indeed great. He outclasses your physical capabilities and your physical gifts. Yes, he does. Stronger, heavier puncher. Can be great defensively. He's also willing to eat a shot to give a shot. And if he does that against you, brother, you can be hurt. We saw you knock down against Kambosos. Even with all the health problems that happened in that fight, still, that punch was clean and you went down. That go against Boots and have him land a clean shot on you. Major problem. On top of the fact that he can fight in a style that you don't like, which is moving. You hate fighting movers, as we saw against Jermaine Ortiz. I believe his name is Jermaine, but Ortiz. You couldn't cut off the ring at all. So if we see that Boots utilizes his footwork to make it so you can't catch him and just outbox at you, lulls you into making a mistake and then catching you with a big right hand or left hand if he chooses to fight orthodox or southpaw, it's going to be lights out. This is a brother. If you want to work, if you want to see if you're ready for Terrance Crawford down the line legitimately, you need to go through Boots Ennis first before you call out anybody of the caliber of Terrance Crawford. Because if we're being perfectly honest, if you fought against Boots, I don't think you'll win that. I don't think you'll win that at all. As much as we've seen you be able to beat people like Lomachenko, beat people like Josh Taylor. Phenomenal fights, absolutely. But you would still now going up against somebody of your physical capabilities, who also has the instincts of one of the greatest in the world, or akin to the instincts of one of the greatest, not as good, but there is an instinctual prodigy-like nature in how Boots in his fights. I wish he was more consistent. But this brother is something serious. If you want to fight at 147, Boots is the brother you need to go through first before anybody, if you want to really test yourself. Because if we're being perfectly honest, when you fought against Sandor Martin, you struggled. When you fought against Ortiz, you struggled. You should have lost against Sandor Martin. You struggled against Ortiz. Even with Boots Ennis going up against like-minded opponents, he still had a better performance than you. Like with Shukajan, though he beat him. Shukajan still put up a phenomenal display. Vastly more, it was vastly more, okay, yeah, I can see Boots winning rather than you versus Sandor Martin when he should score 2 knockdowns on you with light punches because he caught you off balance. There is, again, well, as much as good as Teofimo Lopez has at his disposal, there was a lot of bad there that somebody like Boots will be able to take advantage of and take out. Be slick, be cool, be all that stuff. But I guarantee you, Boots takes advantage of what you give him. And then when there's an opening, he will capitalize to end the show. If you capitalize as Teofimo Lopez just to put on a show, like you did against this fight, or in this fight, when you could have gone and actively got him out there, from what I could see, in the instances where you did have him, hey, there's a game plan that you could have ended this fight outright. And you don't take that, going up against Boots and you try to do all that slick stuff that looks good, but going up against somebody who's another great talented boxer who got the power to put your lights out in style on you while doing it, I don't think that's going to happen. And with Isaac Cruz going up against him, let's be perfectly honest, if we saw Teo face against Isaac Cruz, a more refined, better infighter, while we know he's got the stamina to go with them, understandable. Teo showed he got the stamina and the lung capacity and the punch output to match anybody. Great. But there's going to be some instances where even in this fight, the other brother still landed with 200-something punches, though he was throwing a lot more. On top of the fact that we still saw swelling and injuries on Teo, bruising, all that stuff. From a brother who, again, it seemed like just with the jab alone, initially, we were seeing Claggaet consistently be able to land when he would come in on the inside. Now go up against a better refined infighter who every shot of his is going to hurt. You ain't going to be able to, you won't be able to just fight off the ropes against somebody like Isaac Cruz. Because he may not have as high, he's got high output, don't get me wrong. He may not be as busy as just the Iron Man that is Steve Claggaet, but he's incredibly busy. And the pain that he inflicts, you won't want to block and keep on the ropes anymore. If you get to a point where you're walked and stalked and you still can't fight out, that's a dangerous game. You got the power that can go with them. Understandable. But I guarantee you right now, if we see that same game plan go up against Isaac Cruz, and he puts on the same type of performance in terms of game plan, obliging the ropes, that's a problem. That's against Isaac Cruz. That's a problem. I'm not saying it's unbeatable. No, he still can't beat him. But you talk about a dangerous game. You're talking about a dangerous game. This fight with Claggaet was just activity. That fight with Cruz, Isaac Cruz, is going to be a dogfight, legitimately. That's going to be a fight where you test everything about yourself. Oblige Isaac Cruz if you want you to the ropes. Let him work on the inside against you. See exactly what happens. See exactly what happens. Somebody who can actively pick their punch placement a whole lot better. It's a lot more destructive. And it's a lot more refined in his defense and offensive capabilities. It's going to be that. It'll be a good fight, don't get me wrong. But you're playing a dangerous game if you think that's what you can do against those two types of elite fighters, let alone Terrance Crawford. Especially Terrance Crawford. Because if you can't beat Boots or struggle with Isaac Cruz, there's no way you're going to be able to. No way you can compete on the level of somebody like Terrance Crawford. No way in the world. None whatsoever. None. But again, if those fights do happen, I'll be here to cover it all. But with all that being said, this has been another episode of The Neutral Corner with me, your host, Jean-Luc Welch. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show. Again, please leave a like on the video, comment, thoughts, and opinions on everything that we have been talking about. Rate us 5 stars on every podcasting platform. And please share the show with everybody that you know. Go on and subscribe. Join the empire. We'll be back next week or even later on this week. Well, maybe not later on this week. We got some stuff going on this week. But still, we got so much to cover. As a sports, we'll keep on evolving. This is the hottest show to go and listen to my opinions and facts on and all, breakdowns of breaking news and much more right here on The Welch Report. Again, I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all have been wonderful. Peace and love. We Alrighty.